It's time now for the World Cup debrief with Emily Boyle. Emily, you have plenty of football to go through as 3 more groups play their last stage games overnight.
Yeah, six games to go through, 6 games ahead. And of course, as per usual, to go through all the action, here is Tando Sevilla. But before I come to you for your expert opinions, let's remind ourselves of some of the action from last night. In Group I, especially where it was goals galore for France and Senegal, but it was the battle for the top spot between France and Norway, which proved to be quite the game. In the absence of Erling Haaland and 9 other of Norway's regular starters who started on the bench, France treated us to a real football demonstration against Norway. Ousmane Dembélé opened the scoring in the 7th minute, and then again in the 20th. Norway managed to get one in amid the French onslaught, but then the Ballon d'Or was back and scored his 3rd goal in the 32nd, making it the fastest hat-trick in the World Cup since 1954, and only the 3rd World Cup hat-trick in France's history. Anyway, the game stayed at 3-1 right until the last minute of the game, when Désiré Doué made it 4 with a beautiful header in the 94th minute. Ousmane Dembélé was the star of the show last night, and France 24's own Selina Sykes was there to see it all unfold. Take a listen.
This is the gesture that Ousmane Dembélé made during his 2nd goal celebration of that spectacular hat-trick that helped seal France's 4-1 win over Norway to top Group I. It's a picture that paints 1,000 words as Dembélé responded to critics that have accused him of repeatedly underperforming in a French shirt. There's been a lot of debate over his role and his position in the French squad. He's obviously excelled over the last 2 years since being moved into the number 9 position by Luis Enrique at PSG. He's won 2 Champions League titles and the Ballon d'Or, but that position is obviously already taken by captain Kylian Mbappe, who provided Dembélé with 2 assists. But Dembélé stole the show, getting that amazing hat-trick with 3 excellent shots from a long range. The 2nd fastest hat-trick in World Cup history after just 32 minutes. It's incredible to think that his first ever goal for France at a major international tournament was back in the 2nd group stage game against Iraq, and now on 4 goals he is in contention for the Golden Boot, the same amount of goals he has as Kylian Mbappe.
Brilliant performance there from Dembélé. But I guess my first question to you, Tando, it was kind of a tougher game for the Norwegians, but not completely surprising because they kind of fielded a B team.
Yeah.
What do you make of that decision?
I guess now we get to see the difference in the coaching styles. So here you have France, who have a selector, also condolences to Coach Didier Deschamps for losing his mother. He will be back next week Tuesday for the rest of the tournament. But you see the difference in the coaching decisions that are made here. On one side, you have France, who continue to go with momentum. The players will not get tired because it's a risk in fielding your B side and letting your players rest, which is the suggested objective, is to give them rest so that they can come back stronger for the round of 32. I also do think, personally, it's to try out more tactical options, especially when you have an opponent like France. So if the B team guys can kind of bring up the quality of their play when you're playing against an Ousmane Dembélé, when you're playing against Kylian Mbappe, Désiré Doué, Lacroix, who was exceptional yesterday. Actually, Koundé was really good yesterday. But coming back to Norway and them fielding their B team, I do think that it might be risky. So you do have the option of rest, but you also have the chance of losing momentum. I don't think that necessarily will be the case when you have a player as smart as Erling Haaland. He probably did need the rest. It was very painful to watch him on the bench, looking like he wanted to come on, looking at the decisions that were made and so on. But unlike perhaps the likes of Ronaldo and how they look when they're sitting on the bench, he kind of looked like a guy who understands the decision and is just observing the game. So look forward to see what they do in the rest of the tournament, and hopefully it's not a case of lost momentum for them.
Yeah, hopefully that keeps up. Elsewhere in the group, Senegal was up against Iraq and had to win by a large margin to keep their knockout hopes alive. A big ask, but Senegal delivered, scoring a whopping 5 goals. The first came in the 4th minute of the game thanks to Sunderland's Habib Diarra. Iraq went down to 10 men early in that match, shortly after the first goal, but they held on. But it was really in the second half that Senegal proved deadly, putting 4 through the Iraqi posts. the Lions of Teranga are the first African team to score 5 goals at a World Cup, a dominant victory, which means that Senegal has qualified as one of the best third-placed teams. And it looks like we're heading straight for a Senegal-England matchup in the round of 32, provided, of course, England finish top of their group. So, Tando, Senegal really needed a big win. They put in the performance that they needed. They lost 2 games. They won last night. What do you think they can take away from their group stage so far?
They had one of the most difficult groups in this tournament.
So
exactly. Group I was nowhere near easy. So I do think that if they were able to pull their weight in this group and get to the next round of the tournament, I do think that is positive. It's good to see Iliman Ndiaye shining, because this is one of the players Senegalese supporters were asking, like, where is he? We need a lot more of him, because he is very talented. We saw him in the African Cup of Nations as well. So you do see that, like France, like perhaps Norway, if you must, Senegalese side also has depth. You see that they have Gay, who scored the brace yesterday. They bring on the likes of Iliman Ndiaye. They have Mbaye, the PSG youngster. They have a lot of options up front. Defensively, they're really solid. So I am looking forward to seeing what they're capable of bringing. Also in the rankings, they're now in 18th position. I have been following the rankings, which are changing. It's actually really nice to see. France has just gone up with 2 points. So they're above Argentina right now. And they're possibly going to be playing against 4th-ranked England. It's not going to be easy. Harry Kane didn't have a great last game the last time.
The curse has been lifted on Harry Kane, famously. The internet suggests that he might be scoring.
Yeah, hopefully. But also they're coming up against a really tough Senegalese side, possibly. There's also a possibility that it could be Belgium, Portugal, Colombia. Not very easy as well. We spoke about this earlier on. The possibilities are endless, but I do think that the Senegalese side is more than capable.
Yeah, we saw a lot of goals in Group I, Group H. Fewer goals, but still some drama.
Yeah, quite a lot of drama, a few goals, as you mentioned. In fact, the only goal that was scored across those 2 fixtures came from Alex Bina doing Spain's win against Uruguay. But all eyes were really on the Cape Verde-Saudi Arabia match, which turned out to be a historic night for the Blue Sharks as the World Cup debutants snatched their spot in the knockouts. The 0-0 draw against Saudi Arabia meant that Cape Verde are so far unbeaten and take the second spot in Group H with 3 points, therefore becoming the first team to qualify with 3 points since Chile in 1998. So definitely something to celebrate. Take a look at this. This is the players walking out of the game there through all the press, having a little boogie as they walked past everyone.
You can do that when you're undefeated.
You can do that when you're undefeated. You can get away with those hats as well. Meanwhile, fans outside the stadium were also celebrating in slightly more unusual ways. Take a look at this.
We haven't lost yet. Messi, get ready. Argentina, get ready. Because we coming.
GOAT stands for greatest of all time. And that is Cape Verde.
So yes, they have their own goats to counter the goats, of course, because they'll be up against Argentina in the round of 32. But maybe let's have a look at the Cape Verde team. What's been going well for them? How have they pulled off this achievement? They're the first team to reach knockouts on a debut since Slovakia in 2010.
Yeah.
Quite a statement they've made. How do you see this team working?
I think when we ask the questions around how a country with such a small population can make it work and so well, there's the diaspora factor, and that's one of the big things. Where these players are sourced from, you look at the likes of Dylan Livramento, who was born in Rotterdam, 25-year-old, he's a forward, and he's currently playing on loan, actually, from Hellas Verona, which is in the B League in the Portuguese Serie B. And he's currently with Casa Pia in Portugal's Primeira Liga. And so you do see that these are not players who are playing in Cape Verde. And so when you look at the quality, I do think that Coach Bubista, in partnership with the Federation, have been creating a project that has the synergy that they have with recruitment, with the federation, with the coaching, with the players. It's a whole project with a very solid objective, and it's confidence too. I think psychologically, if you compare this Cape Verde side to perhaps other underdogs, psychologically they really do understand that they are more than capable, and I do think that that's what takes them a little bit further and gives them that extra edge. But also looking at Coach Bubista, he's been with Cape Verde since 2020, him playing himself for over a decade as well for the country. So I do think that it means a lot more, and I do do think that it's beyond talent. It's a very solid job from the recruitment side who are selecting these players, because if you look, 14 out of the 26 players who have been selected for the squad are based abroad. So there's plenty more to talk about in the way of Cape Verde, but for now I'll just keep it at the confidence, the psychological factor, and sheer talent.
Yeah, smallest nation at the World Cup, but they might have the biggest bandwagon now, I think.
Yeah.
Finally, two Group G fixtures finished several hours ago. What can you tell us?
Yes, well, it was kind of an emotional rollercoaster for Iran in particular. They thought they had scored the winning goal, which would confirm their spot in the knockouts in the very last minutes of that game. Unfortunately, Khalilzadeh was offside by the tiniest of margins. I mean, barely a toenail. Anyway, that draw means that they finish third, and they now have to play the waiting game. They're currently one of the best third-place teams, but they will have to see how tonight's matches go before starting their celebrations. Egypt, though, can get the party started already. They're through to the knockouts for the first time since 1934. Elsewhere in the group, Belgium finally got their hands on their first win of the tournament, and in style. Their 5-1 victory against New Zealand is their largest ever World Cup win. New Zealand, though, are out of the competition and have gone winless in 9 World Cup matches, an unfortunate World Cup record.
And that's it for the last night's fixtures, but it means we already have an idea of some of the round of 32 games which await us next week.
Yeah, loads of more exciting games to watch. Still a few to be decided, of course, depending on what happens tonight. But let's have a look at some of these matchups. France-Sweden, I think, is going to be particularly interesting, as is Ivory Coast-Norway, Netherlands, Morocco 2, and Brazil-Japan. That's just a selection of the games that await us. Tando, loads of great games ahead. Now, we're approaching this knockout phase of the tournament after 72 group stage games, after the ones this evening, of course. What are your thoughts on this 48-team format now that we've gone through the group stage? Is now the moment when the real football starts, as some people have been saying, or have we actually been able to enjoy kind of some newcomers to the sport and it's been actually beneficial to the sport of football?
I like this expanded format of 48 teams because it becomes a real World Cup. It's not exclusionary where it's for a certain number of teams who are perhaps better off with organization, the structures of their federations and so on. Now we see the expansion. We have more participation with teams from the CONCACAF regions, more participation of teams from the CAF regions. And so that expands the quality that we can reach out to. And I think even for viewers, it's amazing because there are some viewers who perhaps are more focused on the European, American leagues and now get to see what is happening in Africa. And I do think that puts a lot of respect on African football. Similarly, Caribbean in the CONCACAF region as well. I mean, look at the likes of Cape Verde. The focus, we also understand that there are issues with broadcasting as well, with what spectators can and cannot have access to. And so once you have this expanded version of the World Cup, it does create opportunities for people to then engage and see that football is actually a lot bigger than just European football. It's a lot bigger than just Champions League. Of course, I'm not undermining or underestimating the spectators because they do their research and they will make sure that they can watch good football. But I'm not against the expansion to 48 teams because some coaches have been against it, some criticizing the style of play. We recently saw after the game, I think it was Ivory Coast, it was a little bit of criticism saying that they play a lot more physically than they do play tactically or technically even. And I do think that that then starts to change the style of football or the understanding of the game of football, that there's not one static style, that perhaps more on the African continent, which I stand to be not corrected, but I'm putting myself up for criticism here, and it's okay. It's something that I'm willing to expand on with time. But African football for the longest time, especially in the Western region, Northwestern region, has been more physical. I'm not taking away from the technical abilities, but it is a lot more physical. North Africa is a lot more organized, the understanding of the game, and so I'm really looking forward to the game between Morocco and the Netherlands because the way the Moroccans are disciplined and in their style of play, I do think that it's something worth watching. But to answer your question, Emily, I loved the first round. I don't think that now we start to see real football. It just gets a little bit more challenging because there's a knockout component to it. But we've seen some incredible games in this tournament so far. So the first round, lovely.
And all those next matchups look wonderful as well. Emily, what can you tell us about the games this evening?
Yeah, 6 more games. It's the last batch of group stage games and matches in groups J, K, and L. Group L is getting the ball rolling this evening at 11 p.m. Paris time. England are up against Panama and Croatia face Ghana. Then Group K is next, kicking things off at 1:30 a.m. Paris time. DR Congo needs a win against Uzbekistan to grab a spot as one of the best third-place teams. And Algeria also needs to take points to keep their qualification dreams alive. They are up against Austria at 4 a.m. Paris time, whilst Jordan face defending champions Argentina, but luckily not Messi. He's going to be resting to make sure he's on form for the next round against Cape Verde. And I guess that's all we've got time for the sports today, but still plenty more action to come tomorrow.
Yeah, and more to discuss then. Thank you very much, Emily Boyle, and Tanda. Thank you as well. We'll have more World Cup debrief tomorrow. Stay tuned to France 24.